here comes the state compliance update. Let's talk about the biggest changes across the United States affecting cannabis and hemp for the last 60 days. Hey, I'm Morgan Davis. I'm a health and wellness attorney based in Raleigh, North Carolina. Let's talk about how to keep your business protected and thriving. So one of the biggest needs in the hemp and cannabis industry is to understand the constantly changing patchwork quilt of laws and regulations on a state-by-state basis. Non-compliance is no longer an option, right? Like, enforcement is real. People are getting arrested, people are getting their products confiscated, people are getting fined for not complying with state regulations. So if you're a business owner who wants to take your hemp product, your federally legal hemp product, and put it all over the United States, how do you know where you can send it and where you can't send it? Well, in an attempt to sort of help with that, I'm now doing a monthly compliance update based on the biggest changes that have occurred in the last 60 days affecting the hemp and cannabis industry. Let's take a look at this month. So as of November 14th, 2024, which is the day I'm recording this, these are the biggest updates from the last 30 to 60 days. Let's start with everybody's favorite state, California. If you remember the last time we talked about California, Governor Newsom had just enacted an emergency regulation with the Department of Health and Human Services, or the equivalent. I think it's the California Department of Public Health, banning basically all hemp products, all intoxicating hemp products, any that contain any type of THC, across the state of California. An injunction was filed to try and pull that back. The injunction was denied. The judge found basically that the claimants failed to show that there was an emergency need for an injunction. It's a very high burden. So that request will continue through, but it's not really going to be addressed anytime soon. And this ban stays in effect at least until March, during which period they can bring on new regulations to regulate the entire industry. They could extend the emergency regulations. We'll see what happens. So, but for right now, the state of California is off limits. New Jersey. So New Jersey had a similar thing happen where a law was passed, California emergency regulation, New Jersey actual law passed, suit filed, sponsored by the Americans for Healthy Alternatives Association, good for you guys, and they were partially successful, partially not. The injunction was partially granted, partially denied. As of right now, the state of New Jersey is only enforcing two provisions from the new law. One, no sales to anyone under 21, which, if you've been paying attention, you shouldn't be selling to people under 21 anyway. So shouldn't be a big deal for anybody. Two, no synthetics. Now here's the kicker. They are defining synthetics pretty broadly. Take a look at the language, but it's potentially going to really kill this industry for Delta 8, Delta 10, HHC, basically anything other than Delta 9. So pay special attention to that. Enforcement is starting now. It looks like it's mostly starting at the retail level. So we don't believe distributors, manufacturers are going to see much of that as of right now. This enforcement is being enacted by the New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission, or the CRC. They don't have a huge amount of resources, so it may stay at the retail level. But what should be clear is that at some point, they're going to circle back on this, guys, and try and figure out how to make that whole law work, which could be quite detrimental to the entirety of the hemp industry in New Jersey. Ohio legislatures have proposed yet another potential ban, though this one apparently has legs, that will ban almost all hemp products in the state of Ohio. It would only allow products containing 0.5 milligrams Delta 9 THC or up to 2 milligrams of Delta 9 THC per container. Anything containing any other type of THC, aka Delta 8 THC or any of the others, would only be allowed 0.5 milligrams for the container. So very, very low milligram caps that will again kill most of the industry in Ohio. definitely kill off THCA flower, most synthetics, and honestly, pretty much all products. And there's no carve out for beverage. So there's no option like we've seen in Connecticut or other places where you can have one beverage with 2 milligrams of THC in it. It's 0.5 milligrams per serving, period. Missouri. So good news in September, Missouri lifted the ban, right? There was an emergency regulation similar to California trying to ban it. The governor tried to do it, then that was pushed back by the AG. So then they took it back and everything seemed fine. But now they're trying to introduce and pass administrative regulations, which would essentially do the same thing. So apparently we're going to try and skin the cat yet again. Stay tuned. We'll see how effective that is. Texas, trouble is a brewing in the state of Texas. Texas is a huge state for the hemp industry and very permissive at this moment. However, in the vein of, I think, trying to bring in adult use and expand the medical market in Texas, Texas legislators are, and the lieutenant governor, are trying to rein in the hemp industry. So the lieutenant governor, the Texas legislature comes back in beginning in January, I believe. Lieutenant governor has already sent over their list of their regulatory agenda priorities for next year. A ban on Delta 8 is on that list. In addition to that, a Senator Charles Perry is seeking to ban basically all hemp products, all intoxicating hemp products throughout the state of Texas. I think that's going to be a very, very big uphill battle. I could be wrong, but hemp is a massive industry in the state of Texas. So hopefully the Texas hemp industry is getting itself together and geared up for a big fight, because it looks like one's coming. Illinois has recently issued new regulations under the Department of Agriculture just in the last week, I believe November 11th, in fact, so 3 days ago. Now, on the face, the regulations look to just seem to be adding in some regulations for universities that are have hemp programs. However, it's my understanding that, in fact, the regulations allow law enforcement and Department of Agriculture representatives to go into any retail or any seller of hemp products throughout the state of Illinois and demand testing. And that testing can be identified as having to go to a certain place, which could be very costly to retailers. Is this a bad thing? Yes and no. If you are a retailer, you are probably not at this moment in the habit of spot testing your products and bearing the financial burden of sending your products off to be tested on a regular basis to see if they're compliant. You're simply relying on the products that are provided to you, whether through the distributor, wholesaler, manufacturer, whoever you're ordering from, and the COAs they provide you as, hey, legal, right? All I'm doing is selling them, not my problem. Well, if this goes through, it is your problem. So pay special attention to that. We'll be addressing it next month. Let's see if those regulations go through. Right now, they have been paused for comment. So stay tuned. Florida has new administrative regulations pending, which are super fun. One gets rid of all color additives in hemp products, including natural color additives, if they are used solely for color. If you have a product in your formulation for your hemp product that is colored but is in fact for flavor, then that is exempt from these regulations. But let's say you're using fruit juice or vegetable juice to color your hemp gummies. If these regulations pass, you will no longer be able to do that. So Florida's regulated medical market only allows for colorless gummies. Ew. That may end up being what happens in the hemp market, which would be really gross and not attractive to anyone. But at least there's the carve out for if you're using it in your formulation and it's not just for color. In addition to that, they are upping their standard on child-proof packaging to a much stricter standard than the sort of general idea of your Packaging must be child resistant. COA requirements are now going to require that you list where your batch was made, including the name and the location, which for some people, they have no idea because they're buying their extract through a broker. So that might be a higher burden. And finally, it is adding in the word hemp to all of the regulations and applying a total THC standard. Now, that total Delta 9 THC standard in Florida already applies to hemp and to hemp products. So arguably this is not a different move, but there seems to be some lack of enforcement of that standard on hemp flower, which is why THCA flower has continued to proliferate and exist in the state of Florida. If this regulation passes, the FDACS, or the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, may take it upon itself to start reining in the flower industry in Florida. Something to be aware of and watch. There's a public hearing for that on December 10th. The comment period goes through the end of December, I think, into January, and then there'll be probably another period of time where they may take into account the comments. Ultimately, the regulations may not be passed at all. This is not the first time they've tried. So again, stay tuned. Last but not least, our home state of North Carolina. So there have not been any regulatory changes in North Carolina, but good golly, have there been a lot of raids and a lot of people arrested and a lot of products seized and a lot of money seized. Here's the thing to understand. In the state of North Carolina, there is a group of sheriffs who are now working with the DEA's office, and especially on the east coast of North Carolina, to raid mostly hemp retailers, couple distributors, one manufacturer, and they're working with DEA, and here's the real part that super stinks about that. When the DEA comes in, they seize all the money, all your stuff, and they'll hold it, and they'll seize all your bank accounts. Even if it's not just, they'll take your personal bank accounts, your business accounts, everything. They will take everything. They will literally take the art off your walls, right? Common practice in the federal government. And whether or not you get charged federally, let's say you don't even get charged. You might get charged criminally by the state. Maybe you don't get charged at all. They are going to hold your stuff and potentially threaten you with criminal charges and or seizure. And you may never see that stuff back. So it's a whole new ballgame in the state of North Carolina for non-compliant products. And the worst part about it is there seems to be a fundamental misunderstanding about what the law is in North Carolina. Hemp and hemp products are legal in North Carolina as long as they comply with the federal and state standard of containing no more than 0.3% Delta 9 THC. However, somewhere along the way, somebody has convinced some of the law enforcement around here that the total THC standard is what applies. That the USDA cultivation standard for hemp grown is what gets applied to everything. Not true. We've talked about that in previous videos. We're going to talk about it again. But if you're a stakeholder in North Carolina, be aware that this is a problem right now. Hemp flower, THCA flower, pre-rolls, these are all on the target list. That's the update for this month. I hope this was helpful. If you are looking for some more personal attention and need a 50-state review for your company and your products, please reach out. We do that regularly for our clients. Otherwise, we'll see you next month for the next state compliance update.